recover the whales.
I'll yield back. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Representative Hageman for 5 minutes.
Thank you. You know, and my observation from earlier today seems to hold true. Ms. Olson, Mr. Brown, Mr. Semenko, you're all involved with food production and actually providing the resources we need to survive, while the other two are more of the government employee types who don't produce, but are very willing and able to regulate all of you out of existence if they have that opportunity. I hate to tell you, Mr. Brown and Ms. Olson, that as long as there is an unwillingness to acknowledge the impact that wind turbines are having on the right whales and other species, your industry and industries like yours are going to continue to be blamed. And I apologize for what your federal government is about to do to you and these agencies. Mr. Semenko, I want to thank you for your testimony. As you know, I'm a water attorney and I have dealt with the Endangered Species Act for many years. In June 2022, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the National Marine Fisheries Service announced the rescission of the Trump-era regulation definition of a critical habitat. This decision made it easier for radical environmental groups to target farmers, miners, and property owners by weaponizing the ESA against them. In my years of experience with the ESA, I've witnessed the same problem that you highlighted in your testimony, that there's no accountability for the failure stemming from the implementation of these laws. Currently in the West, we're experiencing the consequence of this failure as federal water supplies are being redirected for water conservation purposes and towards other uses. We are also experiencing catastrophic forest fires, not because of climate change, but because of failed forest management policies that come out of Washington, D.C. While we on this committee are doing what we can to hold federal agencies accountable for neglecting important irrigation development projects, the reversal of the Trump-era definition of critical habitat provides yet another political weapon that environmental groups get to use to target water users and project developers. Under such a convenient new definition, federal agencies can designate man-made surface infrastructure projects such as reservoirs as canals as critical habitat. And these kinds of designations negatively impact our farmers, ranchers, recreationalists, and all water users alike. Mr. Semenko, what kinds of negative impacts have you seen, specifically on agricultural communities, when critical habitat designations are made on man-made infrastructure?
Congresswoman, thanks for the question. It's great to see you in your capacity here as a member of Congress. Thank you for the question. We've seen freezing of the ability to move forward with projects. You don't know what you can do and what you can't do, and when it's one thing, in trying to approach this from a common sense, nonpartisan perspective, it's one thing to look at areas where species currently occupy vast, huge swaths of area, for example, with the anadromous fish. It's quite another to look at an area where the fish doesn't exist, there's no prospect for it to exist. I've been in meetings with NOAA Fisheries where they actually talked about the need to preserve areas as potential habitat above a 212-foot waterfall where salmon have never existed, because sometime in the future we might need a cold water refugia because of climate change. Maybe, sort of, it could happen. Even though the fish have obviously never, and then I was corrected, well, we don't know what kind of seismic shifts have occurred. Maybe fish did used to be above Shoshone Falls in eastern Idaho. So again, it's a freezing of the ability to know what you can do and you can't do. And as you know, when people need to invest money or looking at investing money in projects, you need to have some level of certainty. That's a hallmark of water law in the Western United States, the certainty and the finality that's allowed by water rights. The other thing I wanted to mention is this definition we're talking about that's been repealed, it was in response in large part to the 2018 decision in Weyerhaeuser. It was a responsible response to dealing with the issue identified by the U.S. Supreme Court. The definition says, for the purposes of designating critical habitat only, Habitat is the abiotic and biotic setting that currently or periodically contains the resources and conditions necessary to support one or more life processes of a species. That's it. That's all it says. But it does make you look and focus at, is this really an area that's necessary to support the species in the future?
I very much appreciate that explanation and appreciate all your testimony. Appreciate you being here. Good luck. We're going to do whatever we can to help you. Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you. And seeing nobody else to ask questions, I guess it's my turn. So, Mr. Simanko, thank you for your analysis. I'd like you